Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Luke Arriva from the International College, and I am the Siam Ambassador for this year. And I'm just going to be introducing our MC for today. So our MC, Dr. Apichat Incharwisit, has served several stages at home and abroad as Master of Ceremony for Arts and Cultural Events and a moderator in the Academic Forum for over 30 years. He's a holder of a BA in International Relations from Chulalongkorn University, Masters of Public Administration from Long Island University, New York, and he has a PhD in Speech Communication from Ohio University. Dr. Apichat has been active in both academic works and corporate trainings, as well as a professional compere for the Ministry of Culture, especially on its international events. So please welcome Dr. Apichat Incharwisit as our moderator and Master of Ceremony for this event.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Privy Councillor, President of the Siam University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to bring you into Bridges event, the event which is not only prestigious to the hosting institute, but also valuable to the public at large. The program this afternoon will consist of ceremony for the memorabilia presentation to be presided by His Excellency Privy Councillor. The second will be the keynote speaker. The third will be the panel discussion with the question and answer. With this, may I welcome the Siam University, Dr. Pornchai Mongkol Wanit, the President of Siam University, to deliver the welcome remark. Mr. President.
His Excellency Air Chief Marshal Chalit Phukphasuk, Royal Member of the Privy Council, in the capacity of the Chairman of Siam University Council, Professor Dr. Finn Erling Kydland, 2004 Nobel Laureate for Economics, Thailand former Deputy Prime Minister Gorn Thapalangsi, Founding Chairman Uwe Morawetz of the International Peace Foundation, distinguished participants, faculty members, and students of Siam University, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Siam University, as the host of Bridges event dialogue towards the culture of peace, I would like to welcome all of you to this special and timely lecture to mark the 50th anniversary of Siam University of Thailand. We are also proud to work with International Peace Foundation for the second time. The previous one was November 12, 2007. Nobel Laureate for Economics, Professor Robert Alexander Mandel. The speech was on economic development by fitting globalization into the national development policy. This year, we are also extremely proud also to welcome the economist Professor Finn Erling Kydland, 2004 Nobel Laureate for Economics, for the research on the business cycle and macroeconomic policy, especially the driving forces behind the business cycle and the time consistency of economic policy. And one of his latest academic work, he also suggests the pathway towards economic recovery after the COVID-19 in his 2020 paper. It gives immense pleasure to start this third round of its dialogue in Asia with the special lecture of economists series. This is vital as after pandemic, the world was come together to find a way to regain towards economic strength. At the same time, we also struggling with war and environmental degradation. Let me conclude my remark by emphasizing, I truly believe that this is indeed the turning point of the time of the national and regional economy. From this point onwards, we are expecting a positive trend after the disruption by having appropriate economic policy. Thank you again for all guests, commentators from the university and industry, participants, faculty members, and students for joining this event today, and especially on this special event of the 50th anniversary celebration of Siam University. The university has granted the special Siam Award to Nobel Laureate Finn Erling Kydland for his noble academic work, and also visiting Siam University for the delivery his special lecture today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ponchai, the President. Now the President will lead you to the presentation of Siam Award. With this, we are honored by the presence of His Excellency Air Chief Marshal Chalit Phukphasuk, Privy Councillor, on the capacity of the Chairman of the Siam University Council, to preside at the award presentation. May we now invite Your Excellency on the stage to present the award. And we also would like to invite Dr. Kydland, Professor Dr. Kydland, together on the stage for the award presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Siam Award, awarded to Dr. Kydland. We would like to have the photograph opportunity to be joined by Mr. Uwe Morawetz, His Excellency Mr. Gon Thapparangsi, Professor Dr. Jompong Mongkolvanit, Professor Dr. Chanita Rakpolamurang, joining in the photograph opportunity on stage. Congratulations, Professor Dr. Kydland, on this award, the Siam University Award, and thank you very much, Your Excellency, Privy Councillor, Air Chief Marshal Chalit Phukphasuk, the chairman of the University Council. Thank you, all the distinguished personality on the stage. Dr. Morawetz, you may remain on the stage for the next program. Ladies and gentlemen, we now bring you to the second phase of this afternoon session, and this will be the remark by Mr. Uwe Morawetz, the founding chairman of the International Peace Foundation. Over decades, this organization have been around the globe bringing people with wisdom, knowledge, and the sharing for the opportunity of arts, cultures, learning, education. And this is a very key personality to have brought to us a true education. Ladies and gentlemen, we are giving you the chairman of the International Peace Foundation, Mr. Uwe Morawetz.
Anyway, welcome to the Japan-ASEAN Bridges event series, which is facilitated by the Vienna-based International Peace Foundation. Commemorating the 50th anniversary of official relations between Japan and the ASEAN region, Bridges has been continuously held in Thailand and Japan since November last year, involving the participation of Nobel Laureates for physics, chemistry, medicine, and economics. The Japan-ASEAN Bridges series follows the series of over 800 Bridges events, which the International Peace Foundation has facilitated since 2003 to support education in the ASEAN region. Increasing ethnic, political, religious, and social conflicts, and the helplessness to respond to them without further stimulating the spiral of violence show us peace is not a given good. It has to be constantly learned, experienced, and created anew. Peace is not a passive state. Peace is a process which needs time, attention, and the participation of all of us. And peace begins with education. The seeds of peace need to be planted in schools, in universities, in the new generation. This is why the International Peace Foundation cooperates with major universities and schools in realizing this Bridges program. We believe in the importance of the education and scientific community of Thailand by bringing the knowledge and wisdom of the Nobel Laureates to this country. What these highly in-demand Nobel Laureates normally see of a country are airports and hotels. They deliver their lecture, stay for one night, and leave. In this case, we have invited them here not to speak, but to share, to engage, to listen. They come here not only for one event only, but for a series of dialogues and events without requesting any honorarium, because of their real interest in building bridges, because of their real interest in Thailand. It is our hope that these are not the first and final visits of these Nobel Laureates, but visits with many fruitful return to build long-lasting friendship and to start the research programs or other forms of collaboration with the local universities and schools. This is how bridges can develop into a long-term and sustainable success for Thailand to strengthen education as a basis for peace. I thank Siam University and the organizing committee of today's events for taking up this opportunity of our cooperation and for inviting today the 2004 Nobel Laureate for Economics, Professor Finn Kydland, to this prestigious university. We look forward to his keynote speech and to his important contribution to build bridges. A warm welcome, Professor Kydland.
I start? Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this event. I especially am grateful to Uwe Morawetz, who helped to facilitate my visit. I would like to talk about some things, some items that I think are important for, especially for growth of nations. So, am I blocking the view? Nope. Okay, I'm fine. Thank you. So here's a picture of what I believe is possible, what the potential is for not just these three nations, but and especially the blue curve, I regard as a description of the potential for what can be done. So this is a picture of real GDP. Real GDP is the it's been real, meaning it's been adjusting for inflation. So it's real. It's a sum of the purchases of consumption goods, investment goods, public expenditures, and so on. And I want to, for now, point out that the scale. I always have to be careful about the vertical scale. This goes from 0 to 60,000 purchasing power US dollars. So I regard the blue curve as a description of what's potential for, I would say, a lot of nations. In this case, the United States, Canada, and Australia. Not all countries have done equally well. Some have done spectacularly well, and maybe the most spectacular in this picture is Hong Kong, the yellow curve. But I would say the light blue curve also is a great description of a country that has done very well. At some point, Korea went on they instituted some interesting, good economic policy, and they were able to grow very, very well. Not everyone has done that well. So at the bottom of the curve, of the graph, I have 3 countries they're basically from South America: Argentina, Chile, and Mexico. Well, Mexico isn't really as, but they're Latin American countries. In their case, remember that the vertical scale is in the total picture is 0 to 50,000. In their case, these countries, they tend to hover around maybe around 15,000 US dollars. That is not the worst that can happen. I would like to mention the French economist Piketty, who was instrumental in emphasizing inequality and poverty within nations. Very interesting work by Piketty, but it was using data for his home country, France. On the next slide, I especially want you to pay attention to the x-axis, and you will see the dramatic difference between and among nations. I guess I guess I shouldn't call it I guess it's really the y-axis, but never mind. So I always regard this as one of the saddest pictures I know. This is a picture of, as before, real GDP per capita, but as you can see, some of the countries hover very near the bottom, too close to zero. Some hover around $2,000 dollars per capita. Some every now and then make a spark, and so Angola at some point was able to bypass most of these countries. But the main point is these are very low incomes or GDP per capita. By the way, in this context, GDP more or less corresponds to what we could call income. So what makes countries grow? That's a very important question, and this is my. So I'm a professor, and you know, a professor always has to include some math, naturally. So this is a very simple expression, but it describes what happens in the aggregate economy, as I call it. I always refuse to call it the macroeconomy. I call it the aggregate economy, the aggregate of the decisions of hundreds of households, hundreds of businesses, thousands of households, and as they respond to incentives. So the Z I would call the technology level. Now, and the other two variables, K, is the sum of factories, machines, office buildings in the nation. L of T is labor input, and ideally the labor input, you might think that would correspond pretty much to its growth would correspond pretty much to the growth of the population, but there are some interesting factors, and that is not all workers have the same skill level. So I think of L, a more properly measurement of the labor input is to weight, for example, weight by the skill level of weight differently the skill level versus the unskilled workers. Now I would like to turn to a picture. This picture includes several countries, some countries that did reasonably well, and some didn't do nearly as well. So this also goes from 0 to 2020. The countries included are United Kingdom, France, Spain, Greece, Germany, Austria, and Italy, and Ireland. Ireland in 1990. To me, Ireland is an especially interesting case because Ireland, they came into around 1990 with the education system was very good, and so in particular secondary schools were doing very well, and so Ireland found themselves with potentially a skillful workforce, but no factories or machines to work with. Now, Ireland, to me, is maybe the most interesting case of what. So, to me, in order for countries to grow at acceptable levels, they have to have the will to do whatever they intend to do, but they also have to, it has to be combined with a commitment mechanism to ensure that this intention keeps going, and that it doesn't that it doesn't get tempted to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we tricked you." And Ireland, you may wonder why Ireland, in particular, could make such a commitment, but I guess they had no history of tricking people. So again, as I mentioned, this idea of making the tax rates as you can see the pictures in 1990 is towards the bottom of the green curve. Around 1990, Ireland decided, well, we'll make tax policy completely certain. If you set up shop in Ireland, these will be your tax rates, and this included potentially foreign companies as well as domestic. If you set up shop in Ireland, these will be your tax rates, not just in 92, 93, and so on, all the way to 2005. And this had a spectacular effect on Ireland. To me, it's my favorite example of how it's important to have a commitment mechanism to make sure that whatever your intention was, that you hang on to that commitment as Ireland did. So I forgot if, so I talked about, yeah, that's what I thought. So, one more. Thank you. So, now I would like to turn to a country that maybe is my favorite country in the world, Spain. You may wonder why. Well, I like the style of living. I like the fact that they're willing to go. They go to bar, and all ages go to bars, and so on. So it's great fun to be in Spain. Tanya and I have some favorite restaurants: La Dolores, El Lacon, and few more. But let me not get distracted. In 1990, I'm just making sure you. Oh, I guess the gray straight line shows up reasonably well because it shows the average growth rate from 1960 to 1990 extended to the present. Same for these other pictures, Italy, Portugal, and Ireland. What's dramatic about the picture for Spain, but also for Italy and Portugal, is that growth came to a full stop. Starting about 1990, growth came to a full stop. And that's very bad for a country. And so the important question is, how could that happen? And how could we possibly avoid it? This is a different way of demonstrating more or less curves that are similar to the total factor productivity pictures. And again, same idea. The gray stippled curve gives the average growth rate from 1960 to 1990, and then extended to the present. For Ireland, the picture looks much more benign. Now you ask, and this is a good question, how could this happen? Well, this is an important picture. It shows that the blue curve is the value added share in the non-tradable goods sector And the green curve is the same kind of thing in the tradable goods sector. It starts, both graphs start at 50. They're equal in 1980, and then they diverge. Now it turns out they did not come back together later on, so, and this is very bad. So I'll explain a little bit exactly what that means. So now you may wonder, and that's a good question, what are examples of tradable versus non-tradable goods? Well, I have a list of tradable: agriculture, fishing, mining, total manufacturing, publishing, and non-tradable: construction, general repairs, accommodations, food service activities. I couldn't resist throwing in haircuts, because you may not believe this, but even I occasionally need a haircut. So here is a picture of output per hour worked in the tradable goods sector. So I know the heading says traded, but I like to say tradable goods sector and non-tradable goods sector. So here in the picture, this is a little confusing, because so I have to clarify a little bit. By the way, this is this is the outcome of joint work I did with an economist I got to know very well at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. And so part of the reason I have these three curves is for a different purpose. We also needed the red and the green curve, but ignore them. Ignore the red and the green curve. Focus on the blue curve, because that represents the main message. It's okay. So notice that in 1980, the index, think of this as an index of what happened in the output per hour worked. In 1980, the index, I guess I can use the pointer. I'm generally technologically challenged, so I'm always a little nervous about doing something scary, but not sure why. Okay, never mind. It's not particularly important for the progression of my talk. But the main thing is, in 1980, output per hour worked was about, as I said, it's an index. Say that's an index of 100. And then by 2008, I would say, it had grown to over 200, 220 or so. Contrast that with the, let's say, in the non-tradable goods sector. So again, start with, as we did in the other picture, with an index of 100 in 1980, and then see what happened until about 2008. It grew only 220 rather than 200 in the other picture. Big difference. Now, you may wonder, and this is a good question. What was special about the tradable goods sector? And what made it behave so benignly, I guess that is the word, in this picture? The main reason I will point out is the importance of competition. So in the tradable goods sector, lots of competition. That is my main conclusion in the context of that picture or those pictures. Given Uwe Morawetz is here, I also have to point out the conclusions about what's peace got to do with it. So, peace is important for reducing uncertainty. Peace promotes trade, as in the example of the tradable goods sector. Peace was very powerful in promoting trade. Peace allows for technological change. In other words, in my production function, you remember my Z, multiplying the function of capital and labor inputs. The Z is very powerful because that whole function is linear in Z. That means that for every 10% increase in Z, there's a 10% increase in gross domestic product. Very powerful factor for nations as a whole. Now, as you saw in my example, let me just say that trade also increases growth, and most important, for the nation's citizens, growth elevates their welfare. Now, I suppose I could make another couple of comments related to the picture for sub-Saharan Africa. Those nations, many of those nations in sub-Saharan Africa are subject to conflicts, and conflicts are not conducive to elevating growth in their nations. I always thought of that picture of sub-Saharan Africa and various nations as the most, the saddest picture I've seen. Now, one last follow-up question. We had a conference at my university. I'm the director of what's called the Laboratory of Aggregate Economics and Finance, LAEF, and we are experts at putting on conferences. And at some point, we had a speaker who was an expert about sub-Saharan Africa and I asked him point blank, I said, do you think it would be feasible, how feasible would it be to export technological change to sub-Saharan African countries? Unfortunately, the speaker didn't give me much hope, but if someone can come up with an answer to that question, I think that that would be one of the most spectacular things that could happen, and some of the most spectacular ways in which welfare of the sub-Saharan African countries especially could be elevated. With that, I would like to conclude, and I would like to thank you very much for attending my speech, and I look forward to seeing many of you again. So, thank you.
So I like you to come down, and then after that there will be commentator.
Oh, okay. So come down there. Okay. Okay. So I like to pay attention to how long I took. Here is my advanced phone. I'm not a big fan of stupid smartphones, as you. Oh. Here?
Test. Thank you, Dr. Kydland. Thank you, Dr. Kydland, for your insights and, of course, the share of knowledge.
Okay.
As we are arranging for more personalities to proceed to the stage here, I'd like to bring you to the third phase of the program. Let me now call upon the personality in order. We are going to have Professor Dr. Cho Jae-sho to join as the moderator of this panel, a scholar with the season's experience and interests in broad array covering international relations, economy, cross-cultural communication, language, and strategic management, Dr. Cho Jae-sho. On the stage, flanking Dr. Falkland, Dr. Kydland, is Dr. Bunyada Jongsitthiphol, a scholar of finance and economy at Siam University, whose experience branch out towards pragmatic and academic outcomes with numerous publications. We also have personalities from other fields, namely Kun Korn Thapparangsi. Kun Korn Thapparangsi has 40 years of background endowed with political experience, policy making, macroeconomy, and international relationship. Please, Kun Korn, please proceed to the stage. We also have a very avid economy columnist who has earned both breadth and depth of experience in corporate and state-owned organizations from International Monetary Fund, financial institutes, hospital and insurance, especially during the tough time of the world economy. Dr. Chachai Parasuk. Another guest is a well-seasoned executive and leader in investment and management for government enterprises, conglomerations, entertainment, and insurance, Kun Visit Tantisunthorn. And last is an accomplished banker. We need a person from the bank. And this is the personality from one of Thailand's leading and dynamic banks, the K-Bank, Kun Vichai Choi. The order of the panel discussion will be controlled by Dr. Cho. So when Dr. Cho take the control, he will shuffle around and what should be proceeded. Dr. Cho, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Honorable Professor Kydland, it is my extreme honor. Rather, it is my family's honor, as we often say in my country, Korea, to sit with you to talk about your wonderful speech today.
Thank you.
Since I knew that you would be our special guest at this special event organized by Siam University, Bridges, and International Peace Foundation, I tried to get accustomed with your remarkable academic contributions, as well as with the speeches and talks that I could find out on YouTube videos. Among many interesting sources, there was an article entitled Policy Consistency and Economic Growth in Finance in Society, an anthology in honor of your good friend, Professor Thor Jonsen, published in 2017. I enjoyed reading this instructive and inspiring chapter and could get many pragmatic lessons on consistent economic policy and economic development, the topic of your speech today. Professor Kydland introduced different contexts from various parts of the world that are used as illustrations. This showed us significant differences in what has evolved across nations in recent years. So today, we have a specialist from different sectors. So first of all, I would like to ask our panel, His Excellency, Mr. Kon Tabarani, to give us your reflection as a politician and specialist in political science, and your pragmatic reflection on Professor Kydland's speech.
First of all, it is a great honor for me to be invited to be in this very distinguished gathering, and especially even to be invited to be on the stage to give some commentary on the Dr. Kydland's presentation earlier today. My dear friends, I was impressed with the two words, and I will cover my opinion on these two words only in this reflection, my reflection to your presentation. The first word is consistency. The second one, peace. It is my great pleasure to inform all of you that of the two words, peace and consistency, we have only one, peace. We do not have consistency in our economic program. It's just because the political structure of Thailand do not allow to have consistency in the continuity of the economic development. In other words, to put that in a very simple language, we change the government too often. And we cannot expect to have consistency in the continuity of the economic policy. Professor, that is one big problem. But we are very proud to say to the world community, Thailand is the most peaceful country in the world. Just to reconfirm that, I should say that only 3 weeks ago, the President of the United States sent his most trusted advisor to Bangkok to meet the advisor of to Mr. Xi Jinping. Could you imagine the two greatest leaders of the world, China and United States, sent their most trusted advisor to meet in Bangkok? It has become known to the world now that Thailand is the most peaceful country in the world because the two most powerful nations on this planet, send their people to meet and have private discussion in Bangkok. That is what we are so proud of. But what we are not so proud of is that we never have consistency of the government policy, especially in the economic program. Having been in the political arena of Thailand for 79 years, that just to say that I'm 79 years old. And just to say to all of you that having spent all of my life in the political arena, we have never had that consistency and continuity of economic policy. So, sir, with due respect, thank you very much to tell all of us today, I was a part of your audience, to have heard from you that consistency is the key factor to economic success. You cannot expect economic prosperity unless you have economic consistency. So that I have learned from you, and I wish to say that me in Thailand, we confirm that. And I'm very happy to hear that from you, a Nobel Laureate, to say that to all of us here in Thailand. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I would like to add one thing, and that is it's not just about consistency, but once you realize what represents good long-run policy, somehow you have to be committed to that policy over the longer run. So that's why Prescott and I thought we emphasized the danger of time inconsistency, but it's if somehow you can commit yourself to good economic policy in the long run, you'll do well. That's something that many countries have discovered in the arena of monetary policy. I know nothing about the monetary policy in Thailand, but in the arena of monetary policy, we contended that the independence of central banks is extremely important. And that's something that has helped to generate consistent economic policy, monetary policy in a number of nations, not just in the United Kingdom, and the Bank of England was maybe the first to become independent, but also countries such as my home country, Norway, but also Sweden and Denmark are examples of countries carrying out consistent long-run monetary policy. So the idea that you can commit yourself to in a credible way. Not all countries would be able to do this in a credible way, but and that's why I quit when I mentioned Ireland. I guess Ireland didn't have there wasn't an example of where Ireland had tricked people. We don't want people to say, well, I'm going to go along this path, but then the temptation arises that let's say you decide to tax more heavily the fruits of the result of the consistent economic policy. That's one of the dangers that could arise.
Okay, thank you, Professor Kydland.
Can I say something to that remark?
Sure.
Please.
May I? With due respect, Professor, you have just mentioned monetary policy. Earlier, I was making some comment of your economic policy, not monetary. And for your information, you have just said that in front all of us that the independence of the central bank is a key factor to the continuity of monetary policy. Just for your information, sir, in the past 7 months, the Prime Minister of Thailand and the Governor of the Central Bank have been walking on the different streets. So that answer to your point about monetary constituency. The government of Thailand is going into this direction on the monetary policy. The Governor of the Bank of Thailand going into that policy. I don't have to say anymore. Thank you very much.
So one of my most vivid memories in Manila, I guess it must have been, was so we're in the car and we're driving along a street, and then the driver says, "Oh, and in that building, that's where the central bank is located, and but in the same building, also the treasury is located." And I said, "No, that can't be. They shouldn't be in the same building."
What else is new?
Excuse me, I have to interrupt you, otherwise it will be a continuous talking. So now we'll move on to the next panelist. I would like to invite Mr. Vizit, representing business sector, to comment on the professor's speech today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my honor to be here. And I just want to address a few points that the professor said. Professor Finn Kydland from Norway and from Europe, the study in his study that's very more focused on Europe, like Spain or other country in Ireland. Actually, that would be somehow different from the situation in Asia, and whereby they have the geopolitics between the United States and China. That would be reflecting the growth of the economy. I think everyone would agree with that. And I like the equation of your equation, like GDP is equal to Z, which is a technology level, and K and L, which is a factory and machine, and the labor, which means the skilled labor. I think this is something that in Asia, I just talk about regional, I'm not talking about Thailand, but that's what we not include in there is the competitiveness of the country that, but the competitiveness of the country that would compose of the skilled labor infrastructure that, in Asia might be different from in Europe. My question addressed to you is that how could you adjust that into the situation in Asia that, that reflecting the economic policies?
I realize that it's a challenge, but I don't know enough about your nations or nation to be able to come up with a clear-cut roadmap for how you would do so. I mean, you would presumably emphasize the same things I emphasized in my talk about the commitment to good long-run economic policy. In some countries, I've observed it's too tempting when something happens, and then in the short run, then you get tempted to roll back what your plan had been. But it's important to stay the course and have the long run focus.
Okay, let me divide that into trade sector and a non-trade sector that you presented. I think Thailand or this part of the world, I think we compose of the everywhere though, when composed of the two sectors. Service sector would be the, in the trade sector, non-trade sector, and the trade sector would be on the construction site, something like that, right? So I think the economic policy on these two sectors would be different, and I appreciate that you differentiate the graph of those countries into different sectors, and then we see that in trade sector, I think it's in non-trade sector is more volatile though. It's more volatile, the economic growth, which is meaning that the infrastructure of the countries might not be ready to serve that the non-trade sector, and then we need to see a lot of improvement in that, to be able to compete and then increase the competition level and of the country. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I try to emphasize, in the tradable goods sector, competition is a key factor. Now, as an additional comment, one thing I could point out is that so sometimes unintended things happen, and I was doing work with a Spanish economist. He's part of how this project evolved. His name is Enrique Martinez Garcia. He really helped me in that project, and so I regarded. I mean, for the purpose of the students in particular, I would say I have never worked with someone who had so much influence on how I ended up thinking. And so one of the things I like to point out is the importance of especially of mathematics and try to encourage students to learn real analysis, for example, and of course the main tool that is used in my field, which is called dynamic programming. In other words, how to deal with, how to analyze forward-looking decisions. And that's crucial. If you're a student here, learn dynamic programming, and that will make you more likely to be successful in the long run.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to ask Mr. Vichai to give us your comment and also give your reflection on the business environment eventually affected by consistent economic policy.
So good afternoon, everybody. Actually, it's my great pleasure to be invited to join such a great function. Actually, it's been my first time since I graduated from University of Wisconsin in 1989 to come to classroom to listen to great professor talking to economists for the last 30 years. So back to school, the feeling is so good. Thank you, Professor. Excellent presentation. I just have some comment, right? It's curious, Dr. Kydland, in your chart, right? I kind of a little bit curious why you did not include the China factor. I didn't see a line of China. Yeah, I had some reason, but the reason I say that because as a Thai, right? You know, Thai, the China has been the largest economic partner for the last so many years. I actually might really want to know your opinion of China economy, right? Yeah, because we, you know, just now you talked about was the one point I really totally agree. The peace is a really important factor for the economic growth. Unfortunately, our world, right, is facing the geopolitical conflict, trade wars, right, regional wars. So it looks like the peace so difficult to obtain, right? And so what's your opinion on this, right? So on the China factor.
So as you can imagine, I've visited China many times. So I've been invited to give talks in Xi'an, apostrophe A-N, Xi'an, and several other locations, and also at universities in China. Indeed, that's at speaking to universities. It was delightful to speak to students at Chinese universities because they seemed so thankful that I was willing. I mean, they're a very sweet group of people and very enjoyable for me to be able to speak to them. But I don't have any. So, and China was in the. It's in my chart. I mean, but it's towards the bottom, so it's rather low. So I guess it's an example of so GDP per capita. Remember,
Per capita,
this is per
yes,
capita.
you're right. Yes.
GDP per capita in China is
Still low, yes.
surprisingly low, but I guess the reason China looks to be so so immense is if you multiply a small number by a huge number of their population, then of course you get a big number. So total size of the Chinese economy becomes large looking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I would like to ask Mr. Vichai to give us your reaction as an economic, analyst.
Thank you very much. Because I'm an economist, I understand every single chart on that. Let me say that the problem with many governments, Thailand in particular, is that we think that macroeconomic policies is the way to solve the economic problem, but it's not. To solve the economic problem, you go to Z, total factor of productivity. You don't stimulate the economy by lowering interest rate or spending more on fiscal policy. It won't work. You go to that equation Z. The problem is that Thailand neglect to develop Z. As Kun Korn has said, because we have inconsistent policy, one government favor X industry, one government favor Y industry. At the end of the day, we do not have core industry. We have industry of the day. For instance, this government favor tourism and then transportation, but the previous governments is petrochemical. So then we don't have consistency of policies here. And then when the economy slow, as we see today, we just think that, if it's easily lower the interest rate by 0.25%, or we give out 10,000 baht and everybody will be rich. Doesn't work that way. You want to work out the economy, the government must attend your Dr. Kydland presentation and understand how that works and how that affects Ireland and other countries that show on the why Botswana developed much faster than other sub-Saharan because they developed that. At one time I applied for a job at UN. They want to send me to Botswana, and I declined the job. But anyway, but you don't have that. like China. China is now developing that. Look at the EV car. That is their set. They don't have it a few years ago. Now they have a lot. And they are going to AI and things because just become the world factory is not enough. You have to become the world technological leader. Thank you.
You. Now we have a few minutes left. I would like to ask Professor Punyada to give us your reflection as a scholar.
So first of all, I'm very honored to be here, and then I meet you in person. And rather to be called commentator, I would to be rather called FC fan club. I'm going to follow your talk around the world from now on, okay? And again, that I feel like, I came back to the young period again to be besides the professor in economics. And on your presentation, you mentioned the first question that you mentioned, what makes countries grow? And you show the model or the equation, the function of K and L. And this is the point that, and you mentioned that the L is the labor, workers, skills level, and unskilled levels. However, you also mentioned and showed the graph of Ireland case. And you mentioned that the island education at that time on the top, that they were on the top. The education system was good. And that's why the per capita real GDP at that time on top. And also that I follow your article on, you write on the innovation as well, and innovation is a part of the economic growth, that's a part. And on your presentation, you mentioned another point, nominal value added shares by sector. This is surprising, is the non-traded sector was much higher than the trade sector. And I believe that part of that would be on the innovation factor. And I would like to ask you to receive your advice, and as a dean of the business school here, and I like the word that you mentioned, commitment. I have commitment to do the job on providing the good education to the young. And I have the question for you. Given the rapid pace of technological advancement and evolving labor market demands, how do you envision the education system adapting to ensure young people are equipped with the skills and knowledge needed for success in the future economy? It seems to be like, the question that I prepare, and actually that I prepare for, because I would like to take this opportunity to listen to your vision on this education in Thailand, please, sir.
Well, Thailand, I'm sorry. I was comparing with Ireland, and so by 1990, Ireland found themselves, they have had a good secondary education system. And so I think that was a big factor in giving them a jump start when they decided to come up with a great economic policy for the future, for in fact certain policy for the future. So I do think education could be a big factor, but it cannot be enough. As I mentioned, they found themselves with potentially skillful workers, but they had no machines and office buildings and so on to make use of them. And so there has to be this interaction of several factors. And admittedly, in the aggregate economy, to think about those things is a little complicated, how things interact. But because the aggregate economy consists of hundreds of businesses and thousands of households, and they all try to do the best for themselves. But it's to make sure it benefits the general population it's always a challenge, but that's why I suppose that's why we maybe trust policymakers a little too much, because
Thank you. Before concluding this panel session, as a moderator and commentator, I would like to give you a comment on the problem of consistency in economic policy. It will be great for the government and business environment to have a constant economic policy. But as we all know, we are living in a world of interdependency and interconnectedness. It means that there are so many internal and external factors that affect a nation's economic policy in the long run. Different political systems, recurring elections, bureaucracy, regional economic and monetary integration, international economic organizations, trade organizations, and many other variables are committed in economic policy making process of each country. Knowing that consistent economic policy is a sine qua non condition of sustainable economic development of a nation, from a government point of view, how to maintain consistent economic and monetary policies in the long term? That is a question, okay, eternal question to answer.
So I sometimes like to use my home country. In case you didn't know, I'm a Norwegian. So I like to use Norway as an example. Norway had the great fortune at some point to discover oil in the North Sea. And then, yeah, so then they, and at first they were a little embarrassed about, I mean, being Norwegians, and that's when they decided to institute what I call decision rule. In Norwegian we call it handlingsregelen. Handlungsregel, I guess, to Uwe. Handlingsregelen, which specified exactly what percentage of the oil revenue would go to projects within Norway, much needed, but because hospitals needed help, and roads in Norway are not the greatest. So they instituted the Handlingsregelen, and they've never broken that rule. And so to me, that's an example of consistency.
Thank you for your excellent answer. Then now I would like to give the audience on the floor to ask questions if you have any. So as we have time restrictions, I would like to give 3 or 4 participants to ask questions to our eminent professor. Anybody? Yes, please. Please introduce yourself briefly and ask the question.
So my name is Jason. I come from China. Actually, because of Thailand is peaceful, that's why I invested in Thailand for 7 years already. So thanks, Professor, for your great speech. Actually, as a China investor, we understand the world economy is now 2 elephants. They are fighting each other. So we are like holding our pocket. We feel uncertainty about the world economy. So that's why my question is like, the world had been impacted a lot from the trading war. So from your perspective, how do you foresee when might be finished about the trading war? The following question is, as an investor, I'm asking from your point of view, what kind of invest we should make in Thailand? Thank you.
I don't think I would be the best person to. I have no. I don't even follow the stock market. I have no interest in the stock market, for example, so I don't think I would be the best person to give advice on where to invest. That's why I have focused so much about where to I suppose where to put your money. I mean, I don't literally mean money, but where to put your money, and it has to be in such a way that you are confident, as was implicit in my talk. You're confident that this is something that consistently will generate revenue,
Okay. I may ask His Excellency Mr. Kong to give him a supplementary answer.
Thank you, sir. You are Chinese investor in Thailand, right?
Yes.
You are businessman from China.
No, actually, I invested here since 2017.
Are you originally from China?
Yes.
You were asking Professor about what would be the best investment in Thailand?
No. That was a following question. So let me put it this way. So as an investor, we feel that the world economy is not stable. We really don't know like which country to go, which industry to go, and then what is the peaceful period. I mean, foresee after 2, 3, 5 years, how many years that the economy will be good, and we can bring the money out in this region.
Always have the problem
First of all,
of
you
uncertainty.
You said that earlier yourself, which I'm very thankful for your comment, that Thailand is very peaceful. You said that. Thank you very much. I just want to say to you that if you were to ask as a businessman from China,
Yes.
what would be the best promising investment in Thailand? I tell you right now, the number one revenue earning for Thai economy is tourism. So that speaks for itself, that the best investment scenario for you is hotel industry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The second question. I see Professor Martin from Wisconsin. Okay. We met each other in Perth, Australia recently. So welcome to our conference. Professor Martin is from Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin. So.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your talk. And my question is coming from a position of gratitude. I've been a guest here at Siam University, and I've learned a lot about what the students here are doing for the environment, which is an absolutely urgent need. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts about growth and environment. What are the best thinkers, including you, thinking about how, especially the young people here who are going to inherit the earth, and it needs to grow, but it also needs to stay alive. So I'm curious to have your views about that, please. Thank you.
You may not believe this because of the Norwegian oil fund, but they are extremely concerned about the environment, and they were among the first to institute to encourage electrical cars to have special lanes for electrical cars and so on. So Norway is very much focused on the environment. Now, on a different note, at some point I was at the conference on, I guess it's called, the term is called sustainability. I happened to sit on the stage with Obama and some other luminary. That's one thing I remember about that conference. I gave a talk about the what should I call it? So there's a lot of materials that are wasted. I already told you I don't own a smartphone, but smartphones, for example, they contain lots of important materials. And the question is, how can we make sure that they get translated back into the economy in a sustainable way? To me, that's a very important question. I don't know if I can. I could expand on that for quite a while about how phones, for example, even my flip phone contains lots of materials. Some, no?
Generations.
So I imagine even this flip phone contains lots of materials that could be that would be useful in different potentially in different contexts, and so that was my comment at that conference about sustainability, which I think is an important issue.
Thank you. I have to interrupt you, otherwise you will, continue. And maybe last question. Here we have, please, from a student.
So thank you. So introducing myself, I am Shmiti Tadamagar, an international student studying in final year of Siam University. So my question to you is, as an international student from a third world country, from Nepal, what might be the long-term repercussions on the third world countries as digitalization and the cashless trend, evident in flourishing economies like China and India, contrast with the major economic downturns in countries like Japan and the UK?
I'm not sure I understood completely the gist of your...
So what I was trying to ask you is, I come from a third world country, right? My home country is Nepal. And
Nepal.
Nepal.
Yeah.
Nepal. So
right under the Mount Everest.
Yeah, in between two major economic giants such as China and India, which borders both our country, making it the landlocked country. So in our, there are many such countries like Nepal, the third world countries. So what do you think would be the long-term effect when there is economic, there is this trend of going cashless and there's digitalization in the flourishing global economies such as China and India. However, the other already major developed countries like UK and Finland, Ireland, or even Japan, they have recently entered the recession. So how do you think it's gonna work out in the long run for a third world country like mine?
Answer to this long question, please.
No, but so I always come back to the same thing about the need for consistency in economic policy, so that you don't willy-nilly, every now and then you do something you think is good in the short run, but then, and then you realize, oh no, that wasn't such a good idea. Now, if you stay the course in the long run, usually that works much better, but it would be good if you had worked out in advance that is indeed a great long-run policy, and so to me that's the most important aspect of policy making.
Thank you.